Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sneha, and today I'm going to be sharing 3 looks using this beautiful palette from Viseart, which is Spritz Edit. So if you'd like to see how I created this and 2 other looks, please continue watching. Now this is what the palette looks like. It's really tiny, but slightly bigger than their typical Petite Pro palettes. So with the Petite Pros, you get 2 rows of eyeshadows, so 8 eyeshadows in total, whereas this one just has that extra row right here, if you can see the height. Let me get that together. There you go. So it has 3 rows of eyeshadows, so therefore 12 eyeshadows. These typically retail for £25 here in the UK, and this one retails for £30, and you get 12 eyeshadows. And right now this particular palette is on sale at Beauty Bay, and it retails only £21, which is a steal for Viseart quality eyeshadows, and you get 12 different shades and different finishes to try them out. So I highly recommend taking advantage of any sales or even Black Friday sales that's coming up. So this is what the packaging looks like. They have this little beautiful bubble design for the Spritz palette. This is the back side. Get the name of the palette. And then this opens up like this. You get a decent sized mirror right there. And then my palette may be a little dirty because I've used it quite a bit, but this is what the shades look like. Just going to bring down the brightness. So this is what the shades look like inside. Now I do have arm swatches for this on my Instagram, so definitely check that out. I will link it in the description box below and somewhere on the screen right now. Now I purchased this palette about 3 weeks ago or so, and I have been using them in and out, and then also used it regularly for the last 3 days to create the different eye looks that you'll see in this video. And I haven't found one dud in this eyeshadow palette. All the shades apply exceptionally well. The only shimmer that's slightly a different texture is this yellow one right here. I do have to build that up a little bit for it to show, as you'll see in the tutorial. But everything else applied beautifully. And then this particular shade, the dark one, is what I have as my eyeliner, and you can see the intensity of the eyeshadow. I haven't used it wet, it's just straight up dry on my eyes, and it is insanely pigmented. Also, the other gold shades that I have used today are used dry, so if you want to amp this up, you can definitely use a mixing medium such as the Esam mixing medium or the Mehron mixing medium to get more intense payoff from these eyeshadows. But overall, I feel like this is a beautiful palette, lovely color story, definitely warm tone and therefore up my alley. And I feel like this is a good size. I feel like more brands should make this size eyeshadows because, just being honest, I have never hit pan on any eyeshadows and I have so many eyeshadows. So it would really be nice if brands can make smaller pans of eyeshadows, thereby we spend less on a palette. And also we get good use from a palette. I feel like this may be one of the few palettes, also Petite Pros, which I can actually hit pan on just because the pan is so small in there. Also, both the edit size and also Petite Pros are a great way for you guys to try out Viseart eyeshadows if you haven't already. The quality is consistent between the different sizes of palettes, unlike other brands where you can find some duds in these smaller palettes. Now enough of rambling, let's get on with the 3 eye looks. For all 3 looks, I'm going to start with primed eyelids, and the primer I've used is the NARS Pro Prime eyeshadow base. For look number 1, which is this neutral eye look, I'm going to first start with the first matte from the palette. I don't know how to pronounce this, but it reads Siembala. I'm not sure the pronunciation is correct, but it's the first matte from the palette. So I'm going to apply that all over my brow bone. Next, we're going to use the shade Brioche, which is the 4th shade from the palette. And I'm going to apply the shade in the crease of my eye. This will add some depth right there. I'm also going to run the shade along my lower lash line. And then going back to the Wayne gauze brush just to blend out any harsh edges. Next, I'm using the shade Scala, which is this beautiful purple, bronze kind of a tone, and I'm going to apply this on the outer V of my eye, also running a little bit along the lower lash line. Then I'm going to use the shade right next to it called Balmy, which is like a muted purple tone taupe kind of a shade, and I'm going to apply that all over the eyelid and then blending the edges between Scala and Balmy. And then as my inner corner, I first went in with the shade Prosecco, which is this light champagne color. And it felt a little too stark against all the other soft neutral tones. So I went in with Balmy as well on top, just to tone down the brightness a little bit. And then finishing off this look with mascara. And then using this MAC Nude pencil on my waterline. For blush, I have the Flower Beauty Blush Balm in the shade Cinnamon. And on my lips, I have the MAC Lip Pencil in the shade Hover. And that completes look number 1. Although this palette is quite colorful, if you just focus on maybe the top row and maybe some of the softer shimmers in the palette, you can definitely get a more wearable or work-appropriate look. On to look number 2, which is this colorful eye look. So I'm going to start with my brow bone. So I'm using the third shade from the palette. So it's called Tarocco, I believe. And I'm going to apply this on my brow bone. Now this is a slightly more peachy tone compared to that first matte we used for the look number 1, which is more of an olive undertone, I feel like. So after this, I'm going to use again the shade Brioche, the same matte shade in the crease that we used in look number 1. And then moving on to the top eyelid, I'm going to use the shade Arencia, which is that very orange yellow gold. I'm using that on the inner corner of the lid. And then using this beautiful peachy shade, which has like golden micro shimmer running through it. So I'm using the shade Spritz on the center of my eye. And then on my outer corner, I'm using this beautiful burgundy matte shade, which is called Figura. This is probably one of my favorite shades from the palette. Blending the edges between the two. And then also bringing Figura along the lower lash line on the outside portion. And then using Granita, which is this matte peach shade, along the inner portion of the lower lash line. And lastly, using this stunning light gold shade called Frizz on the inner corners of my eye. And then finishing off this look with mascara. And then I have the same blush and lip pencil as look number 1. The only thing I'm going to add is add a little bit of the blush by Danessa Myricks. It's the shade Ballet Slippers. And that completes look number 2. I really love how this turned out, and especially pairing the burgundy with the peaches and the gold shades from the palette. And lastly, on to look number 3, which is this graphic shape. So first going to outline the graphic liner on my top eyelid, and I'm going to use the shade Figura, which is that beautiful burgundy matte shade in the palette. And I'm going to switch between two thin angle liner brushes. The first one I believe is a MAC 263 or 268, I'm not sure, because the name has rubbed off. And the second brush that I'll switch to do finer details is by My Kit Co. It's the Pro Brush number 1.17. So again, just taking my time, creating that winged liner first, and then going on to create the top portion of the graphic liner. So first keeping the pressure quite light to create like an outline. And then once I'm happy with the shape, I'm going back in and packing on the color to get good intensity with the eyeshadow. And then I'm going to use the shade Limoncello, which is again one of my favorite shades from this palette. This one swatches so beautiful, especially if you were to apply this all over your eyelid with your fingers. It's absolutely stunning. But I'm going to use this on a brush just because we want to fill in this graphic shape with this. So I'm going to fill it with Limoncello on the outer half of my eyelid. And then using the lighter gold from the palette called Frizz on the inner half of the eyelid. And then blending the edges between the two shades. And just in case there were some shimmer particles that fell on the matte liner or the graphic liner, I went back in with the My Kit Co brush and the shade Figura and re-intensified the liner. And on my lower lash line, I'm going to first take the shade Granita, which is that peach matte shade in the palette, and just create a soft diffuse look all along my bottom lash line. And then just on the outer portion of the lower lash line, I'm going back in with the shade Figura, and then extending the liner to connect it with the top portion of the graphic liner. And then completing this look with mascara. As my blush, I have used the Danessa Myricks Vision Flush in the shade Ballet Slippers. And on my lips, I have the Charlotte Tilbury Lip Cheat in the shade Hot Gossip. And that completes look number 3. This is probably my favorite look, if you can't tell, because I absolutely love graphic liners. Do let me know in the comment section below which of these 3 looks you enjoyed the most. And let me know if you guys have the Spritz palette or if you're likely to pick this one up. If you enjoyed the tutorials, definitely give this video a like and also consider subscribing for more videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!